The woods behind me are starting to get thick, man. It's mid-spring, and here in Oklahoma. I'm in the eastern side of Oklahoma on the state line of Arkansas. So, but it's really growing up. Man, today's video I want to talk about. Uh, I guess let's talk about California, because there are so many people out here that are fleeing California and they're coming here. And they're bringing, I guess, their culture from California out here too, as well. You see a lot of kids now; they're still wearing the LA hats, and they still got the sagging pants, and they're walking around with their gangster signs. Man, there's a reason you left California. I think personally you should just leave that behind. But whatever, people do what they do. None of my business. I don't really care. I just think that there's a reason you left that place. Uh, but I see California license tags everywhere. They're buying up the land out here. I mean, more power to them. It's for sale. Come get some. That's what I did. I'm in Bakersfield, California, but I'm from there anyways. Want to talk about too. I started out. Let's talk. Stay on the subject of California, but I'm gonna go back a little bit in my history. So moved out here. I think I was 14. My dad moved us from Bakersfield out here, and took a while to fit in. I too had the California attitude. I'm from California, whatever. But anyways, so I outgrew that. Got a heavy accent now. Uh, Growing up in my life, we still have our aunts and uncles out there, so we visited California all the time. Um, uh, Roll the clock back up a little bit. I had given Walmart right out of high school. I bought into the Walmart "you'll be a millionaire" type thing. Back then, they had profit sharing for their employees. They gave you stock, and they figured, you retire with Walmart. By the time you get up to your retirement age, you'll have more than $1 million in your stock. So I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. So out of high school, I got me a job working at a distribution center for Walmart. Um, I'll never forget. We had a big every once a week maybe. We had a hour meeting before we all got to work. And we'd have to do the Walmart chair, and we'd have to do a little dance, I guess. So yeah, I'm 18 years old. I'm buying right into this. They're talking about how these people had been there for, some of the people have been there already 10 or 15 years, and they're showing their statements. I've got 45,000 in stock, and so I'm like, man, this is where I'm going to be. Make my $1 million working for Walmart. So I did that. I worked for the distribution center. I got my dad growing up. We stripped and waxed floors on contract side. We contracted floors, so I knew how to do floors. Well, there was an opening at a Walmart store. Uh, they were needing somebody to strip and wax floors. I'm doing the warehouse work, unloading trucks, thinking I'm getting my profit sharing. I'm gonna have all this, and I do this for a couple years. Well, this job comes open at the store, and I apply, and I get it. They instantly transfer everything over. I think I lost $1 in pay, and at that time I was making like $8 an hour. So I think the store had paid 7. So from back breaking, unloading trucks, warehouse work, I went to $7 an hour. Lost it. Lost $1 working in the store. So I did that for a while. I stayed in the store. Every time a store would have an opening for somebody they needed for the floor crew, I would go talk to that manager, and I would talk to him, hey, I'll come work for you, but I've got to have $9 an hour. The store manager would think about it, and he'd get back with me, and he did, and he would do that. This happened 2 or 3 times. So throughout Walmart, I worked my way up, I think, to around $14 an hour, I believe. Most people were just barely getting above minimum wage, so I was considered floor maintenance and stripping and waxing their floors. I thought I was killing it money wise. So I think this time I'm 24, maybe 25 years old, going through my first divorce. got that mistake out of the way. Of course, I found me a girlfriend pretty quick right after, and ended up getting married. So, well, I'm engaged, not married yet. We're talking and whatever. We decided we're going to get married, and we set a date for May. Well, the following May, the upcoming May. This is in February. I ended up getting fired from Walmart. So I had given them 7 years of my life. They fired me, and I looked at my profit sharing check, and I think it was about $3,500. But by the time they did their taxes and all that, for 7 years of my life that I gave Walmart, they gave me $2,500. So, so much for that $1,000,000 they were talking about. Now Walmart doesn't do that. I don't even think they give their people profit sharing. They've cut all that out. So that was probably the best thing that happened to me was Walmart firing me. What happened was I stripped and waxed floors. My hours were 10 at night to 8 in the morning, I believe it was. I had to take an hour lunch. And my lunch time was between 1 and 2, and it had to be set. Walmart had it set. You had to take a lunch at 1 to 2, no matter what. Well, if you know anything about stripping and waxing floors, when you're laying wax down and you're in an 8-hour window, you don't have a lot of time. So what I would do was I would clock out for my lunch, but I would work at my lunch, lay my wax down, whatever. And then I would clock out. I would still get my hour lunch in one way or another, but as far as the punch go, the system would show 1 to 2, no matter what. And I did this for more than a couple of years. When you wax a section, whether you strip it to wax or whether you scrub it to wax, like I said, you've got 30 minutes between coats of wax you need to lay down. So you're going to get up in your lunch break. You're going to work. You're going to have to. There's no other way around it. I don't guess Walmart really understands that part of it. Well, whatever. So what happened was this particular time I had done that. I had clocked out, clocked back in. It was 2:30 in the morning or something. I laid a coat of wax down. I decided I was going to run over and give me something to eat. I almost never left the store, actually. But this particular time I did. I get over, going out to Taco Bell, I think it was. I think that was the only thing open, 2:30 in the morning. But anyways, so I leave, and as I'm leaving, I get there, order my food, my car breaks down. So I'm stuck, can't get back to work. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm calling everybody, and nobody's awake or answering the phone. There's no cell phones at this time. This time, it was 1999. This is how far back it was. So I'm calling. Anyways, I finally get somebody to give me a ride back to work. I get back to work, but this time it's like 5 in the morning. Well, I was already on the clock. The managers had showed up by now. So I got fired for theft of time because I had clocked back in, even though I had left. So whatever. The absolute best thing that Walmart had ever did for me was firing me. It got me out of that mindset of, you're going to make all this money when actually Walmart was just keeping me, I was just getting by paycheck to paycheck, and it was actually starving me. There's nothing there. So this is not to knock Walmart. If that's your thing, go for it. It's a good part-time job for kids out going to school. Other than that, I don't recommend it personally. They fired me in February, and I'm going to get married that following May. So now I have no job. Well, if you're living in Oklahoma, Arkansas, there's nothing here but factories, mostly. There's some contract work, but it's mostly just factory work. Well, I have no experience. Walmart, nothing you do at Walmart warehouse does not count as factory. So I had no factory experience. And in February, I don't know how it is in other states, but there's nobody hiring in February, nowhere at all, ever. It's almost like they quit hiring between Thanksgiving and then probably March. Like there's just a dead window where there's just no jobs being offered. First of the year, I don't know if it's a tax thing or what, but they just don't hire nobody. So I'm kind of desperate. There's a steel mill. The only thing that's in Fort Smith, Arkansas, called Max Steel. and they're hiring, but to get hired straight on, you have to have at least one. Back then, it was 1 year of factory experience, and I had none. But they did hire temporaries, so you could go into a temporary pool, work as a temporary for a year, and then get hired straight on. That was my only option because other than a chicken plant, nobody was taking anything. And I'd done the chicken plant once and lasted about 2 hours, and that was that. So I didn't know what I was getting into. So I go to this company called Max Steel. It was located in Fort Smith, Arkansas. This is the year 99 or 2000. I applied there, and I did. It's a bar mill. What they do is they make solid bars uh, from probably a 1 inch diameter all the way up to a 12-inch as cast. And I'll get into that here later, what an as cast means. So I'm getting to California, by the way, with this whole story. Um, I started working at the bar mill, doing little, it's salvage work as a temporary. Basically, they make these bars, different lengths, 20 foot all the way up to 32, 40 foot long. Whatever the customer has ordered is what this mill will make. If they get any defects in them, you get a hand grinder and you grind out the defect on the bar. If it goes down too much, the bars are rolled a little oversized. So if there's any cracks or anything, you grind out the defects and you'll send them. The customer takes them. If not, you got to reject. This is what I did for like a whole year. Um, but 3 months into my employment was May, and I was getting married. And we planned our wedding around that weekend that I was going to be off. I knew I was going to be off because they had a 4-on, 4-off schedule. So I knew I'd be off for a few days. Well, we got right to our weekend. They come around, hung a overtime notice on the thing and said that we were all required to work mandatory overtime for that weekend. So I went and talked to the boss there, and I was like, look, man, I'm getting married Saturday. I have plans. Is there any way, work around that? He told me no. He says, you're a temporary. And he said, if you don't want to do the job, we'll just put somebody else in your spot. You just won't have a job. I was like, okay, great. So I'd been there working 3 months. I will say that I was making $14 an hour at Walmart, and they were paying me $18 an hour as a temporary. So I was making more money, and plus the overtime, which was insane. That four on, 4 off schedule they had, you were working 6 12s. Anyway, I didn't want to tell my wife, or my future wife, that I was not going to be able to go to our own wedding because I had to work. So I didn't say anything. I figured, man, I'll just quit. That's all I can do. So, because I'd only been 3 months in, and that job was no joke. It was hot. Paid good money though, even as working as a temporary with the overtime. I'm pulling in $1,000 a week. That's more money than I'd ever made. So I didn't want to tell her that. Well, I just whatever happens, I'll just call off. So that Friday, that supervisor came up to me. He goes, you know what? He goes, I've seen that you're a pretty good worker. You're always hard at it. He goes, and I'd like to see you stay with the company. And he says, I'm going to do something I've never done before. He says, you're getting married Saturday. I'll give you Saturday off, but you have to be back here Sunday. So I was like, okay, so no honeymoon for me. So anyways, and he told me, he says, but I want you to work the next 2 weekends to make up for it. So I was like, well, okay. I mean, they're paying me anyway. What the heck? I need the money. So that's what I did. 1 day off, got married, turned back around and went back to work the next day. I did my year out there. Best thing I'd ever done. Actually, they hired me on full time. And man, I want to say back then it was $25 an hour to start. And this is in the year 2000. So good money. And every third week of the month, Max still gave you an incentive check, a bonus check. So if the company did well, you got a piece of that pie. My bonus checks are now hitting like $1,200, $1,500 every month on top of my overtime, on top of the more hours that you work, the fatter your bonus check was because it went by the hours that you worked. Plus the just put it this way, it became a 6-figure job and it was life changing for me. Walmart firing me was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I get married, buy a house, an expensive house, raise my kids. I made enough money at this steel mill to where I don't have to. My wife doesn't have to work. With I had 2 car payments, a house payment, insurance. We went on cruises every single year. I did not. She did not have to work anymore at this point. So, or she didn't have to work at all. She stayed home and raised the kids. Had 3 kids. Um, I get the bright idea. So in 2008, when I'm working there from 2000 for 2008, when the economy crashed, car industry crashed. Well, this mill that I work in, they make steel bars for the automotive industry. So the bars, they turn into cams or crankshafts. When I say ash cast, okay, so the small bars, they have something coming out of a caster. There's a billet of steel that's probably 12 inches around, comes out, and then it goes through some rollers and gets squeezed into whatever size the company orders. So whether it's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch bar, 5 inch bar, whatever they want, they'll roll them through a machine to get that perfect size. Or as cast means that the billet comes through and it's just as it's casted, the opening of the casting. Uh, United Defense ordered the as cast bars, which were 12 inches solid bars. They probably weighed, good God, 2,500 pounds a bar, something insane. Just a long chunk of steel. The United Defense would buy those and they would chop them up for tank tracks or weapons, whatever they use. So uh, part of it was United Defense, part of it was automotive. But in 2008, when the car industry died, that steel mill took a hit, hard hit. And so Max Steel sold us to a company in Brazil called Gerdau. I'd never heard of Gerdau before, so I looked it up. Well, Gerdau is a big steel mill in Brazil. They've got several companies, several steel mills in Brazil, and they had their eyes on the U.S. So in 2008, Max Steel they sold us, took the money to the bank, and dropped us like a bag of rocks. So the new company comes in and they call it Gerdau / Max Steel. I was like, okay, we still have the Max Steel name. They implemented their changes slowly, but after 5 years, they decided the Max Steel name was gone. So they cut it off. So we went through anything in the plant that had Max Steel name on it. We had to throw away. It was gone. It was just Gerdau at that point. So after 5 years, I guess they let the company see the Gerdau name with the Max Steel. And that's how they slowly integrated into putting their name there. And they bought a steel mill up in Michigan. So they got a steel mill in Fort Smith, Arkansas. They got a steel mill in Michigan. They did not like our incentive program. That's the one thing that they were against. So Arkansas, even though we had a union in a steel mill, is a right to work state. So even though you don't want something, they can take it away from you. You can't walk out because you can be replaced. A right to work state just means if you go walk the picket line, they can fire you and bring somebody else in as a temporary. So there's no power with the unions here. So anyways, they brought some business in, so they did help. They had other businesses that we rolled steel for. I never saw a layoff because I wasn't at the shipping end of it, but I know the people that were melting the steel in the melt shop, they lost maybe a couple weeks, and then everything turned around, and I think the government bailed out some of the car industries, and we just picked right back up. We went from nothing to all of a sudden we could get no more time off again. So we were just smoking. Worked there another 4 years or something, and in 2014, so I've got 14 years in at the steel mill. Gerdau buys a steel mill in Rancho Cucamonga, California. So I thought, well, heck, we've been back and forth to California a lot. I love the state. The traffic, something else, but I love the state. So we pack up our stuff, and I asked to get a transfer to the new steel mill they bought. Well, apparently Gerdau, unless you're management, they don't transfer employees. You have to quit, and you have to get rehired again. So you start all the way back over. I'll get to keep my 401k, my company pension, but as far as the uh, my senior time or whatever, don't have any. Starting all the way back over. Okay, so I got hired out there. So me and my wife, we packed up. We get a U-Haul truck, 30-foot box truck, loaded up, $700, $750, I think, is what it rented for, and we drove it out there. I had a wallet full of cash, so we had sold the house. We had my kids are gone, so it was just me and my wife. We sold the house, thinking, we'll get out there, get us an apartment. I'll work at the steel mill for a while, and then we can go to the beach, whatever. So I get out there, and in California, you cannot just put money down, no matter how much money you have. You have to do a background check and a credit check, which could take up to 30 days. So I didn't see that coming. Oklahoma, Arkansas, you pretty much get in here. If you go through a real estate company, I think they might do similar things. But if you move out here, man, there's so many people that are renting their stuff out. You got money, put it down, you're in. I didn't know that I had to wait on so we lived in a hotel for a month, waiting for a background check to an apartment that we found. Everything came out good, and we got to move in. Okay, so I work at that steel mill for about a year. When they have a big meeting, they're talking about it, and they're like, well, California, Gavin Newsoms, with their emissions policies, decided that this steel mill is, and this is in Rancho Cucamonga, is producing too much emissions. And so they want us to build what they call as a bag house that collects the emissions and knocks it down. And so they went to the meeting and they said, well, we'll build it. It's going to cost them $40 million to build this emissions controlled bag house. This steel mill is the only steel mill that's even left in California. They had them back in the day in San Francisco and around, and they've all gone out, went under, got sold off. This is literally the only steel mill left in California. Also, when I get out there, they started me at $28 an hour, which for California may not be much, but they still had their incentive program too. So I was like, that's going to be plenty of money, me and my wife. So get out there. They're talking about this bag house. They come back and they said, we have some bad news. And they said, well, we told California, the state of California, that we would build it, but we need some kind of guarantee that in 10 years you're not going to come back and say we have to rebuild it again. For us to spend $40 million, we can't justify that. The state of California said, no, if next year, if we have stricter standards, that you'll have to rebuild it again. That we're not going to do that. So they wouldn't sign anything saying they had any standing. So Gerdau said, well, we're going to have to close the steel mill because we're not going to put $40 million into something. And then the very next year, California come back and say, no, your emissions aren't good enough. We've got them even stricter this year. So by this time, I've been there a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Steel mill is now going to close down. So me and my wife pack it up, and we're like, you know what? I'm going back. I'm going to go back to Oklahoma, Arkansas, wherever we end up, because I'm not going to have a job. And I don't know what pays in California, but for factory experience, what I have, there's nothing. There's a lot of warehouse jobs out there, but for a 6-figure job, I don't know what you could do out there for that. Movie star, I don't know. So we pack up. I go to rent a U-Haul truck. Well, the U-Haul truck is $3,000 from California back to Oklahoma. Well, I told the lady, I was like, look, it was $750 for me to drive the U-Haul truck from Fort Smith, Arkansas to California. I was like, I'm sure I can even find the receipt, and it's in your system. I rented the truck for that. She says, yeah, I know. She says, but because of the people leaving California, there's an extremely high demand for that truck. Same truck, 30-foot box truck. Same truck that I was trying to get. And because of the high demand, that's what it costs. It's $3,000 to leave. He said, and in fact, you did us a favor by bringing us the truck here when I had moved originally. They said, we can't keep them. And with that $3,000 down, you're on a waiting list for at least 3 weeks. I was like, wow, okay. So what I did is I found I had a truck, I had a pickup truck, 3/4 ton. I found a RV, not an RV, well, yeah, it was a camper. Found an old camper, pull behind camper, probably 30 foot. That was junk. The guy wanted $300 for it. I looked at it was on Craigslist at that time. So I looked on it and I found it, brought it home. I gutted it out, loaded all my furniture in this 30-foot camper, and came back out to Oklahoma. When I came back out here, I had to reapply for my job again at Gerdau. It's now Gerdau, not Max Steel. And I mean, I got instantly hired, except for I couldn't just come in. I had to wait for their next hiring cycle. So it was about a month before I actually come back to work and got in. Um, so I do that, and I buy some land out here in Arkansas. I bought 4 acres for 15,000 on payments because owner finance. You can owner finance your land out here. That's what's something you want to do. So, because of the California emissions, they shut down the only steel mill in California. And also, I know right now there's like a birthright citizenship going on with the courts. Yeah, like 1 in 3 people in California are foreign born. There's what they call anchor babies. Almost everybody there is an anchor baby of some kind. Their parents were from Mexico, mostly, and they were pregnant here, and so they call them anchor babies because the babies are now American citizen, and so they got grafted into the system. It's a loophole. Hey, whatever. If you're good people, whatever. Yeah, I don't even care. But it's a loophole that the system has. These anchor babies are everywhere now. They're all over Arkansas too. It's kind of a joke going around. Several of when I worked around the steel mill, there's some guys working there, and we'd be sitting there talking about stuff, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm an anchor baby. Oh, I'm an anchor baby. My mom's from Mexico, old Mexico. I'm an anchor baby." And yeah, so when you become an American citizen, I guess it gives you a different status. You're able to come into the country. Maybe you still have to get vetted. I don't know. But that anchor baby thing is a loophole that they are really taking off on. So it's everywhere. But yeah, the California emissions thing is just completely out of control. I can see why people left there. The year and a half or so that I was there, I enjoyed it. I did. But you're waiting in line everything you do, everywhere you go. There's so many people out there. You're just doing nothing but waiting in line. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a rundown of that. Thanks for watching me run my mouth. And I was trying to beat this storm. So appreciate you watching. Thanks.